Welcome to the Barack Obama approved world's greatest podcast, Hyphen Nation. I am one of your hosts tonight, Kellen Conley, and with me, all the way from Texas, living in Texas, let's get that correct, is my semi regular co host number one, Marcus Show Mad Love Robinson. Marcus, how are you tonight, sir?
What up? It's your boy, the Marc Rob, aka Sean Mad Love, aka Gordon Darks, aka Pacey Twitter, aka Four Eye Willie, aka Mr. Worldwide. What's going on?
Not a whole lot, man. Happy to have you back on the pod. Happy to be doing the pod. Our yearly
Yes.
numbers on the board episode, like we've been doing since 2017 now. So 17, 18, 19, 20. This is our fifth episode for numbers on the board. Isn't that crazy?
Oh,
So
yes.
Tom just keeps on ticking, man. And also with us for his second numbers on the board episode, wearing a dashing green shirt in another room I've never seen in his home. It's George, the Howitzer Gerbo. How are you, sir?
What's up? It is good to be back. This is the modified home office here, festively. You got my poinsettia in here. This is, we
Nice.
try and
This season.
yeah, 'tis the season. We always keep it festive. So, but yeah, this is this is the workspace.
Hey, it is
Nice.
what it is, man. So we are actually here to work. And what we're doing this episode is I have compiled a list of topics for this episode, and we're going to jump around a little bit. Try to keep the energy up because this one's a little bit more serious. We promise though the next one is going to be a way lighter, way more fun, and we're going to talk a lot of shit about a lot of athletes. So, I will go ahead and pick the first topic. Let's just go with the first question though, because it's a pretty good one. What are you most proud of this year? Let's start with Marcus.
Um, the thing I'm most proud of this year, there's a couple of things that I am, I have a lot of positivity about, but I'll start with the most obvious. Being a part of Hyphen podcast group and still going strong with we should do this again sometime.
Absolutely.
This Friday December 31st, it'll be our 80th episode, and all the episodes are painstakingly produced and edited and listened to. But at the same time, it's really a time that I have to kind of focus and to kind of get the creative juices flowing and to kind of put out episodes with my partner in crime, Kit Kat Chinetti. Kellen falls through, Eric falls through. Eric, if you're listening, don't worry. I think you've passed Kellen on appearances now. Maybe, maybe not. um,
I think he does
uh,
have me.
George, if you ever are interested, uh, you can always come through. We talk about movies, but even though we kind of we deconstruct and analyze films, a lot of this shit I know from myself. I try to have as much fun with as fun as possible. I think my favorite recording. I think my favorite recorded episode is probably our Showgirls episode for very obvious reasons. Um,
Bitches got AIDS and shit.
well, he didn't say bitches got AIDS. He said everybody got AIDS and shit. So it's a
Sorry.
big
Sorry.
difference there. It's a big
My bad.
difference. And the funny thing is, one of the question that we're going to come up, that we're going to answer a little bit in a little bit, I think is actually produced the best episode or one of the best episodes for We Should Do This Again Sometime. The episode that we recorded on this year's version of Candyman, to where me and Kat, we both hated it, but at the same time, I think we were really intelligent about specifically why the movie failed. Um, and and we took it very seriously, but it's like one of those things like you gotta laugh to keep from crying. So so watching the movie was a shitty experience, but at least talking about it with Kat was really therapeutic. I don't want to get kind of too over the top, but part of it was kind of cathartic, kind of talking it out just to make sure I wasn't crazy, or just to make sure she wasn't crazy for disliking it so much. So, staying on top of that, I'm recording and having a schedule for next year already, and still going strong, man. We're on the road to number 100, so we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
Yeah, you guys are. I'm proud of you guys too. I was just talking to Kat about probably about a week or so ago about how impressed I am with both of you guys and how you've grown to be the best editor in a Hyphen podcast group essentially, and you pretty much were self-taught. You've learned all the tricks of the trade, and you continue to impress me all the time. So I'm very proud of both of you and the work you've accomplished on the pod. So keep it up, bro.
I would only come on to ask you questions, Marcus, because like I learn more about movies. I learn about movies from you. I don't see as
You learn the right way to look at a movie.
Yeah. when we get to those later, you'll find that I've seen like 3 this year.
That's okay.
Well, the funny thing is, even the idea of even looking at the movie the right way, like even though we talk about kind of films on kind of a serious level and a deeper level at the same time, like we just looked at Scrooged. Scrooged is philosophically a terrible fucking movie, but I give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars because the ride was just totally ridiculous, but it was enjoyable. Now, if you're kind of looking at it on like a serious deconstructive level of why it doesn't work, that's one thing. But it's an 80s cocaine Bills Murray movie about Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
We can like you can have fun with those kind of movies. Like Die Hard is the greatest Christmas movie of all time.
It is.
And the best line from it is I have a machine gun now, ho ho ho. Like, that's not, I mean, maybe Martin Scorsese actually could have wrote that line, but it's not, that's not like one of the great philosophical to be or not to be kind of lines or whatever. But I say all to say this. There's no right way to watch movies. The only real way to watch movies is to enjoy them. If you have fun just looking at it on the surface, that's all that matters. In the 2000s and 2010s, we got like, fucking Road Trip, uh, uh, all those Will Ferrell, Vince Vaughn movies.
Mm-hmm.
We enjoy the rise of those. It's totally fine. Have fun with this shit because we don't got a lot of time left. So just when you're watching movies, just live in the moment of watching the movies. And if you want to be an egghead, be an egghead. And if you don't. It's really, it's really that easy. I promise you that.
So with that, George, what are you most proud of this year, sir?
If you'll recall, when we did this last year, I said I wanted to write more, and that was mostly coming from a place of like personal writing and blog stuff, which I still haven't done, but I got to cover professionally sports for the first time in my life, writing for Maryland, covering the Terps football.
I saw that byline. It took me a second, but I saw it.
No, men's basketball.
I was like, hey, that's George Gerbo. I was talking shit or something.
And so just kind of, being able to, it's bad mediocre, but it's still, college football, college basketball. And so that was fun, just kind of getting, it's an energy, because I'm kind of doing it outside my job parameter. Like I kind of, there was an opening and I'm like, hey, I see you got nobody doing this. Like, okay. It's like, hey, tell the sports guy, I see you got nobody doing this. And, kept saying, kept beating the door long enough. Went to the West Virginia game as a fan. And then I was like, I'm going to be there. So I have been at every Maryland game, but every Maryland home game, but was, I was like, okay. And just it's funny how just getting back into the rhythm of like, cause I did it in college. I did it at WVU. I did it when I got my master's at Maryland. And I prefer this. I prefer the spoken word. I prefer broadcasting. I prefer radio, but writing's a different animal, and I don't really have a deadline per se, but my job is to get the story out in the quickest amount of time with the most complete I can factually and with the quotes and everything like that. And so that's kind of like a challenge I put on myself, and it just kind of drives me to to try and improve. I'm not trying to be better than anybody else or be the best at it, but I'm trying to be the best. I'm trying to better my craft at it, and improve my own thing. And if I'm happy with that, and I know I'm putting in good work and what I believe is good work, then I can be happy with it. So, and I have been as the season's gotten better, and it's been fun. So
Good.
That's cool, man. Congrats.
thank you.
Absolutely. When's the last time you got to write about sports for real, George?
This is it, because every other time it's been nothing has ever been professional, like you said, with a byline. So it's been me and my co-host Mike Osti on the Howitzer Buzzsaw show. It's been doing this. It's been U92 stuff. It's always been kind of like volunteerist or unpaid or whatever it may be, but never like an actual professional style of thing. So
Right.
I did one or two freelance articles when I was in grad school that you paid me $100 for, but no, yeah, this is like the first actual time doing it kind of as a repeat and doing it professionally. So it's been rewarding.
Nice.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
That's super exciting, man. I am also proud of you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm
definitely.
glad you were able to pick up on the goals from last year, and you saw the hole and you ran for daylight. So
That's what we're trying. We're trying,
so,
baby.
so do you think you're going to continue to write next season? Or I
I
know you're doing basketball, but you think
Yeah, I
it's
think
keep going?
so. We'll see if this bowl game happens. I'm scheduled to cover the bowl game, and then did a story today. Danny Manning is the new, for you basketball folks out there, former Kansas Jayhawk. He's the new Maryland basketball coach because they got rid
Oh
of that.
wow.
I had no idea.
No, okay. So people
Me neither.
do my sports news gathering mode here. People started getting sick of Mark Turgeon, whether you believe that was right or not. It just kind of felt like the relationship was, kind of fraying a little bit, and the team kind of they won some games, they were inconsistent, and they lost to Virginia Tech at home on a Wednesday, and he got booed as he went off the court. And then 2 days later on a Friday, he said he had enough and he parted ways mutually.
Amicably, huh?
That type of thing with the university.
no.
I think he didn't get fired. I think he quit. Honestly, he quit on him. Like he just like, okay, I'm done with this and whatever. And he had just brought Danny Manning, who I didn't realize was the basketball coach at Wake Forest last year and got fired.
Again, no idea.
Okay, but yeah, many people
Yeah.
remember him. If you're
I
old
thought
school,
Bobby was still coaching at Georgia.
yeah. Hey, if you're old school college basketball fan, Danny Manning played in like the 80s at Kansas, won him a national title and everything. Yep, and coached at Tulane, I think, or Tulsa, I forget, and then was at Wake Forest. But him and Mark Turgeon played on the same team at Kansas. So Mark Turgeon brought him on as an assistant, and that kind of worked out because it's not just like a no-name person that has to coach the rest of the season. It's actually somebody with some bona fides and was a legit star in his day and everything, and kind of brings a little more. And he's a little more animated on the sideline. I like him. He's so we had a press conference with him today about them getting back on the court for the first time in a couple of weeks via Zoom and everything. So I like him. I don't know if they're gonna. They have big expectations. Oh, Maryland's gonna. Maryland was ranked 20th start the season. West Virginia is 11-1, and they still can't get a ranking because everybody hating on Bob Huggins. Ridiculous ass shit. I don't care who they played. They've won 11 of the 12 games they played. But I digress. But Maryland was ranked, fell out because they started losing some games. They're like 6-4 now. But a lot of people, is this going to be a team to make a run? Because they won a share of the Big Ten during the pandemic season, and then of course the tournament didn't happen. So kind of up in the air if what the season's going to look like for Maryland. But they got some games to play. They can make the tournament. We'll see what happens. But yes, a little bit of upheaval going on with that right now. Okay. But it's fun to cover. There's no shortage of interesting topics.
Fun fact: my favorite Danny Manning team he ever played for was when he played for Phoenix Suns.
There you go.
The late 90s, I believe, when he had like two or 3 years that he was playing there, but then I think he got hurt. Big surprise there.
Yeah, I mean his pro career was pretty I mean, it was an average
Mhm.
career, so makes sense. And actually, it's funny, George. One of the things I've actually been thinking about here is even like pitching like freelance writing for movie reviews
Mm.
at one of the local. I was going to say papers, but I mean, there's no actual paper
Y'all might have a paper
anymore.
left. You never know.
I mean, it's a paper somewhere, and some HEB is getting sold. But I've actually been thinking about uh, writing, trying to freelance for some writing stuff. So on the movie review side, so I think you're motivating me to do that, man.
Right.
So
No, definitely.
Nice.
That's a niche. That's definitely something that's easy. That's something that's super easy to like freelance about because it's like, there's a constant stream of things to talk about. Like normally freelance is, hey, I have this idea about pollution in the creek or something like that. And then you got to go do the research and you got to go talk to people and things like that. But, with something like movies with, thoughtful and nuanced discussion about it, that's something that's a little bit more mainstream and probably easier to like bring to conception, I would say.
And you be following the footsteps of your man Ebert there.
Mm.
well, my role model, Roger Ebert.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, like that's like that's super big shoes to actually fill. But Roger Ebert writing style, and I have like a couple of his like, I have his autobiography he wrote before he passed, and he like wrote like a fuck ton of books, and I have a book. Basically, like interviews he did kind of like the 70s and like the 80s a little bit, and the way I aspire to kind of reach the plateau of not his plateau obviously, but for my plateau, and for me that really is about kind of expression of what these ideas and movies can actually do for people, what kind of stories they can tell, how deep they can actually go, and how they can actually move people. And so I think for Raj, like the best quality that Roger had was he loved movies in a way that he was not shy about like transmitting that to the reader or to the viewer of the television show. And that's kind of what I want to do as far as my writing and kind of like my podcasting, to kind of transmit like how this movie experience made me feel. And if you listen to the Showgirls episode, you'll know exactly how I
Everything
feel about
lies in
that
the
movie.
Showgirls episode.
Uh, but but yeah, man.
I
So
feel
shout out
like
to
there's still a place, for that too, because I remember watching him and Gene Siskel was like syndicated on Channel 2 in Pittsburgh or something like that, and it was quick, it was snappy, but there was still detail. And I know it was the 90s and like you couldn't go anywhere else for this information. I get that, but I feel like something like that could still work, whether it was like a YouTube, 30-minute, 20-minute thing or actual show on television with just two people kind of back and forth doing movies like that.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, so there's like these two random people, uh, or maybe they're bots. I don't know, but they're like they're like, they're like posting their old TV shows on YouTube, and I please don't report them because I'm very sure this is illegal. But I've watched like probably like over the years, like probably 100 episodes this pandemic, probably more, but it's so funny looking at their reviews and how some of them age really well, some of them maybe not so well, and what they kind of got right and what they kind of got wrong about a lot of stuff. And yeah, like that sharp wittiness. They like snipe at each other every now and then.
They were
But
always fighting, man. I remember that as a kid.
yeah, but they're really good at their job. Like, and it's
Yeah.
funny, like Siskel, uh he was like a philosophy major, which is like you wouldn't think like a philosophy major becoming the one of the most popular movie critics on the world, but he totally did it, and he was really successful at it. So yeah, trying to carve out my lane for that kind of critical eye on the cinema, like
Nice.
Scorsese would say.
Yeah, I totally love that idea for you. I actually you used a quote from Cisco, I believe, in one of the we should do this again sometime episodes, like maybe within the last 10 episodes or so. And I ended up getting sick and missing some time from work and stuff. And when I was out running around, because I had to go get tested and stuff like that, I ended up being negative. But I actually was listening. I had the episode playing on YouTube, but I was listening to it in the car, and it was just like I was listening to a podcast. It was just like actually listening to your podcast with the movie clips and everything in the background insert as well. So, and I've actually watched a few episodes of Cisco and Ebert now, because of that. And it's actually just something cool to throw on, especially when they do their year-end reviews where they go through all the old movies and things. Well, at the time they're new, but to go back and see what was big in '81 and see their takes on it and everything like that, I really do think that's a cool style that, like George said, still has value in today's world.
Yeah, and the episode you're talking about, it's called Superhero FOMO.
Yes.
And I base the episode kind of around me watching Suicide Squad, the new Suicide Squad, not really fucking with it. But then in the midst of me editing the episode, I was watching one of the I was watching the Siskel and Ebert show when they were on PBS, and it happened to be, I believe the year was 78, and they happened to be talking about like people, well, Hollywood in particular, pushing these kind of big budget films for the summer, but they're not really good.
They don't have
But
value.
but you go to see them because everyone else is actually seeing them, not because you actually want to. And then those big budget movies are pushing out the smaller movies from being made. And it was incredible that in 1978 they were talking about that issue when in 2021, like, that has now happened in cinema. Like, and me and George are kind of tweeting about this a couple of days ago about, um, if you look at the top 10, and even if you go to the top 20 of US domestic box office, all of it is action. It's all big budget. There's no drama. There's sequels out the ass, remakes, so it's like in 78, they called the shot. And then decades later, it actually happened. So,
Yep.
they're ahead of their time. So I would definitely check out what they got to say. Some of the stuff that, like I said, they're kind of off about. They gave 2 thumbs down to Death Becomes Her. I just saw that episode this morning. So that was a bit disappointing because that movie fucking kills. But you gotta let some stuff slide.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that just leaves me. So the thing I'm most proud of this year is, ironically enough, through a dumb old app that I thought was only for dancing, I regained my rapping stride. Because I got on TikTok in December, January. Yeah, and then I discovered that they have this duet feature where and people would put their beats up and you could rap over them. And like sometime in January, February, I started doing those, and I turned out quite a few of those this year, and it actually helped me regain my confidence when it came to actually writing rap and stuff. And I have to say that I have not been this confident since at least before Leah was born, if not ever, when it comes to rapping. So I'm actually really proud of the fact that that dumb old app got me to put pen to pad and try different styles and different flows and take different things that was happening and plug them in and be topical and try to be funny and do it all within 60 seconds. And it's been a lot of fun. I'm actually have stepped away from it because I'm actually working on writing actual songs now, and getting back into that format again. But at the beginning of 2021, I don't remember if I had this as a goal to write more music. I'm sure I was like, I want to make music, but I didn't think this would be the way that I would do it. I was just prepared to go back into the traditional format of you pick out a beat and then you sit there and you write 16 and you come up with your hook, or do the hook first and do your 16 and everything. And I never thought that I would literally be sitting like have it like I got an hour before work. I got this beat. Let me take 10 minutes to write this verse. Let me take another 10 to 15 to record it and then post it and then get to work on time and it be as fulfilling as it has been and also been great practice to get me back in the swing of things, so to speak. So I am most proud that I actually got back to writing and recording, and I no air quotes. Like I actually have recorded some stuff, um, and I actually worked on my craft as a rapper this year because I've spent so many years doing podcasting, and then last year I kind of strayed a little bit with the whole streaming thing, and I was focused on that briefly, and then earlier this year I was focused on doing video stuff, and not to say that any of that stuff was bad, but getting back to rapping and writing music and songs is something I'm really proud of, even in that format, because I know that I'm ready to expand it into the regular format of my normal music. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear it, man. If you ever need any help with it, man, like I'm always open, man. So send
I
me
got
over some shit.
spots open for you and George if y'all want to drop some 16s, man.
Oh man, wow.
All right, I'll do like a 8-bar interlude. Fuck it,
Okay.
why not?
Yeah, you can do 8 bars, George.
I got some.
You
I
just got
got
to
some
rap
goofy.
on beat.
I got some
One
goofy
and
raps.
two and three and four. That's
You
it.
know, Kellen, have you ever listened to like an Action Bronson like album?
Yeah.
You know how like Big Body Best just kind of comes in?
Mm-hmm.
I'll, hey, Mr. Worldwide.
All right, I got you. I got you. Say less, fam.
I like Action Bronson.
I think everybody likes Action Bronson except Ghostface.
Oh my god,
Um,
that shit was so funny. How did? Oh my god, that was a very weird situation, but
that was a weird
it was
couple
so
weeks.
funny as fuck. It was
Yes.
funny as shit. So
So since we talked so much about movies already, I'm going to go ahead and pivot to our movie question, our first one. And I'm just going to lay this in here real nice and sweet because my answer is quick and to the point. The worst movie that I saw this year was Eternals.
Oh.
oh wow, okay.
Because
You know, it's funny.
I go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say I was I was remembering when we recorded about maybe 2 years ago about kind of the next phase of MCU and how Eternals would, and like we brought up the point specifically that Eternals could probably be like the make or break point for the MCU in this new phase. So why did you hate Eternals so much?
It's not so much hate. I'm going to say that. I actually put up my letterbox. Shout out to you and Kat to see where I rated stuff and like to see what I actually watched this year and everything like that. And honestly, it was the most disappointing experience for me because I finally decided I'm gonna go to Alamo Draft House for the first time. I'm
Yeah.
at my dad's mom, so I'm gonna go to Alamo. And I got there and I got my seat and I got my order and stuff. And I'm like, all right, I'm about to watch this MCU movie. It's gonna be hella dope. And I was just ready to go. And then my food came and I was still watching the movie and it just was okay. It was just okay. I didn't hate it as far as it's the worst thing I've ever seen. I don't even know, as much as I'm a Captain Marvel apologist, I don't even know if it's worse than Captain Marvel. But it just didn't click with me that much. And like there was great moments, there was great characters, but as a whole, like I just feel like it just didn't stick the landing. It was like Simone going in the air and getting the twisties and like not knowing what was going on. That's the best way I can describe it. Did it set up some stuff? Absolutely. It's an MCU movie, but did it do anything for me as an MCU lover and as a fan of the genre of superhero movies? No, it's a very forgettable film, honestly. So that's why.
You you didn't give it a star rating on
I
Letterboxd,
realized that. I realized that.
so now you got to do it right now.
Okay, well,
One out
I
of
will do
five
live,
that.
stars.
live rating.
Well, live, Kellen, on the app.
Dang, why's it got to be 1 out of 5? I said I didn't hate it. I said it just didn't stick the landing.
Sounds like a 2.
So let me say that my letterbox reviews always start around 3, and then they either go up or down. So I'm willing to go. I'll give it a solid 2. I agree with that.
All right.
So let's see the review. I'm going to go ahead and put it in quotes. This film was like Simone getting the twisties in the Olympics. It got up in the air and had no idea how to stick the landing.
You thought it was worse than Suicide Squad?
I didn't watch Suicide Squad.
Oh wow.
So that's probably why.
All right. George, I know you said you only watched 3 movies this year. So, of the 3, which is the worst?
Space Jam.
Oh, you watched
Let's talk about Space Jam. Let's talk about Space Jam.
I
You
like
guys talk about it.
dumb, entertaining.
Space Jam got 2.5 stars from me.
Okay, like I like dumb, entertaining shit, and I'm like, yeah, and and the merch got me in. It's like, oh
I
man,
watched
look,
it
they
the
got.
morning it came out on HBO.
Yeah, and it was the stream. The only movie I saw in theaters is the one that will be my favorite, which we'll get to. But
Okay.
the God, I mean, just like half acting LeBron, like I just need you to half try, like it's.
Tom, we don't play on the basketball court.
Yeah, he goes out there and and it's just like you can already. He's not even like fake trying. You don't even believe that that's his son. It's just like he showed up at a basketball court and there were kids playing and he's pretending that they're his children. Like it's just there's just
pause. Whoa. that's just a man showing up at a playground. Whoa.
in the back of this beautiful house in Beverly Hills or wherever they're at. God, yeah, it's just like you're relying a lot on the tech. It's like, oh, okay, it's the technology, and it's every movie in the Warner. Like, I enjoyed the thing where it's like every movie in the Warner Brother, universe, and they're all, going
That
flying
was
by.
kinda
Like,
cool.
that was kind of cool. Like, okay, show show off the IP type of thing. Don Cheadle was probably the best. He
Don
had
Cheadle
the best.
his ass off. I
That
don't
was
care
best
how
role.
old he
Yeah,
was.
that was the best role in the movie. I was like, oh, I don't like you, Don Cheadle. Like he did good job. He was the best actor in the movie, and then the Toon Squad was the number Bugs and the Toon Squad were the second best group of actors.
Yeah.
The
movie picked up once he got with Bugs.
Yeah.
The first part was just so hard to watch, man. So hard to watch.
Yeah.
I was gonna say if you remember the original, like Michael Jordan, if you like really kind of think about it, he doesn't really do shit in Space Jam. Like the reason Space Jam works is because of Bugs and of Daffy and the Monstars, and we have Jordan, and he's like important to us in our consciousness, and it's like the Like Mike era still. So he doesn't have to do very much. I would be surprised if Jordan had more than 25 lines of dialogue in all of Space Jam. I'd be very surprised if he had more than that.
40. Let's be fair, 40.
I mean,
out on that golf course, Ed,
he had to walk off a spaceship, bro, and wave to all the fans in the baseball field. That was acting, yo. That got me.
But did he say anything during his wave, though? That's the question.
No, you know who was saying something? A guy who who ruined another song for me. Because you got that beautiful song playing in the background. And it's written by that dumbass Robert Kelly. Thank you, R. Kelly, for ruining yet another song that I can't sing and enjoy anymore.
Oh, wow. I'm sure there's a kids bot version of I Believe I Can Fly that you can enjoy. So.
I think Marcus is right. Yeah, the kids bot version would work.
Not the same.
It would. I believe I can soar. See me running to the open door. So, that's a fucking
Marcus,
prison cell that he's
my birthday's coming up. Can you just record a version?
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
I can fly.
I can fly. Shout out to Dame Lillard, who was the third best actor in the movie behind Don Cheadle in the cartoons. So I enjoyed his role.
Yo, AD was terrible.
It's life. It's art imitating life.
Into a vulture.
art imitating life.
A vulture.
He was a giant bird, Marcus. He was a giant bird.
Spoiler alert! Wow.
Diana Taurasi was a serpent, some kind of serpent.
Snake. Yeah.
They turned into animals. What?
Yeah, that was Don Cheadle's idea. That was his version. Because Dom I gotta explain this. Oh my god. Dom had made a video game. In the game, then Don Cheadle's character sucked LeBron and Dom, his son,
Hey,
into the
I
game
love that.
world.
I love that you just said Don Cheadle suck LeBron.
He sucked LeBron into
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 the
the finish line,
multiverse, whatever.
into the finish line, the multiverse. I believe that's what it was called. And then Dom, he tricked Dom into working against his father. And then because
Because as I
LeBron,
said, he didn't love him.
right. And
So
then
Don
because
Cheadle becomes the father figure.
yes, because Dom had exposure to the actual NBA players, he had put them in the game. So Don Cheadle took the DNA he had put into
Exposure
the
like
game.
COVID? What? You know,
No, he met him in
Kellen,
real life, Marcus. Shut up.
see Kellen,
And then
George. This is an example of we don't need to take all movies seriously.
He's
And
doing
then-
a good job. It's
We just-
he gave them super magical animal powers and mixed it with their NBA DNA, and they were like the new Monstars in the game. The game was entertaining though. The game is the best
Don
part of the
didn't
whole movie.
respect his son,
Final
and
game.
because his son wanted to design video games and was good with coding and things like that, but LeBron was like, "No, you get your ass out there and fake play basketball." And so instead, he joins with Don Cheadle, and then his dad's got to play fake dad's got to play in a video game to save the world or whatever. So
Can I tell you my favorite part though, Marcus?
what if I say no, Kellen?
There's two good parts. It's my podcast. Now what?
So why ask? Just say.
So there's two parts that I love. The first part is when they're down at halftime, the Toon Squad, and then Sylvester comes running and he says, "I found Michael Jordan," and everybody's like, "Yo, Michael Jordan actually really did a cameo. Michael Jordan actually really did a cameo." Guess who walks in? Eric fucking Killmonger walks in.
Yeah, I was gonna
Michael
say
B.
Michael
Jordan.
B. Jordan. Yeah.
And then he gives this horrible speech, and then he gets kicked out. That's the last time we see him. So that's one part I think was great. The other one,
And also, can we have a quick sidebar that Michael B. Jordan's not that good of an actor? Go ahead, Kellen. Keep going.
no, we cannot. You can do that on your podcast. He was bad in Creed too, though. And then there's a rap battle. There's a rap battle, and it's
Oh my
pretty
God,
fucking
no.
dope. It's like
No,
Wildin' Out. It's
it's not.
dope. It's great. It's great. It works. They're
No.
rapping over Flavor in Your Ear, I believe.
Mhm.
They kind of
Flavor
kill
these nuts, Space Jam. Like, no.
Marcus. For the
Tell the
children.
kids that Uncle Sean Matt Love said Space Jam can flavor these nuts. So,
Shoot.
oh man, no, absolutely no. Well, I'm not gonna go at length because me and Kat did an entire episode dedicated to this terrible ass movie on the We Should Do This Again Sometime feed. The episode is called Halloween Kills, Candyman Spills. Candyman was literally the worst movie experience I've had this year. It was a shitty horror movie, and for a movie that wanted to comment on race for a horror movie to want to comment on race, it was horrible at that. We had like a 40-minute conversation on that, so we can speed through that dumpster fire of a terrible ass movie.
And We Should Do This Again Sometime is available wherever podcasts are podcasted.
Yeah, that movie was so fucking bad. It was so bad. But pivoting to my favorite movie of the year, so like Kelly kind of alluded to, we kind of put them onto Letterboxd, and Letterboxd is a free app that you can pay for, but you can still use it for free.
Why do you
And-
pay for it?
Well, one, they were doing like a little Christmas, they were doing like a Black Friday thing,
Mhm.
and because I do like Letterboxd, I threw them money just to kind of support it. It was a one-time thing for the year,
Got you.
and so I have like patron status, but
I
it
saw
gives
that.
it gives you more information as far as like stats and stuff. But I mostly did it because I support Letterboxd and I want to see them even make the app even better than what it is, because I know the free app it can get janky.
Mhm. Absolutely.
So, but So basically, and also because I'm OCD, I use it to track a bunch of shit, and I have probably over a dozen. I have like a dozen and a half lists of just movies that I've kind of tracked or whatever, and I track new movies I've watched this year, just new to me movies. So it can be from 1942, like Casablanca, or from this year. And so far, the new to me movies I've watched is 112, and that doesn't include like rewatches. It doesn't include shit I've already watched before. So so of the 112 movies I've watched, I would say from this year, I love Dune. Dune from 2021 was actually really marvelous and spectacular. And we already did an episode on, so I'm not going to super in depth in it, but it was really good. But an older movie that I really enjoyed that I, for, well, actually, before I even get up to that, we're kind of talking about the superhero big shit this year. So I'm going to pivot to someone that's not that this year. And I don't know if in local theaters even streaming or playing anymore. It's a movie called Come On, Come On, and it came out this year and it stars Joaquin Phoenix, and he's basically it's this movie that's in black and white, and he's this uncle of this kid, and the kid's family's kind of going through some drama, and it's like this kind of it's not necessarily coming of age for the boy, but it's really about Joaquin's journey to becoming a good uncle, and it's super sweet, like it's super well acted from this kid who's like 11 or some shit. He's like super young. Joaquin, I mean, he's so tenured and long in the tooth, but it's a really great exercise in acting from him. He's not over the top. It's not like Joker or whatever where it's super um over the top or whatever, but he does a really great job in that. So it's called Come On, Come On. Um, if you can find it streaming somewhere, which probably is, I don't think it's in theaters anymore, but I would try to watch that. Um, but something other than that that I really enjoyed was this movie Broadcast News from '87, and it's based on these reporters in DC, um, and how the kind of news back then was kind of reported on, and the idea of even back the idea of fake news and what is fake news and what is real journalism. It's really good. It stars Albert Brooks, William Hurt, and Holly Hunter, and it's super funny. It's super sharp. It's super smart. And that was like I love watching that movie. That movie was really really good. It's probably one of the best movies of the '80s. So
That sounds like it'd be up my alley.
yeah. So Broadcast News. There you go.
Nice. Very nice. I'm gonna go ahead and take this one before we pass it over to George. Mine is a tie, actually, because I I was going to do that thing where I picked one that wasn't what everybody obviously think I would pick, but then I stopped myself so Marcus wouldn't yell at me. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that No Way Home is one of my favorite movies of this year.
You can say
Spider-Man.
that. It's okay.
Um, because it's an amazing film. I I've barely talked about this film since I've walked out of the movie theater because it the experience that I had with it as uh, being a Spider-Man fan since the age of I don't know 6 or 7, and then seeing what I saw on that movie screen, it still was really profound for me, and I really haven't dealt with all the feelings that it gave me, and it's not just from a cinematic like oh my, it's not a cinematic achievement like mind-blowing greatest movie of all time kind of thing. It's just coming from a space of loving this character and then seeing that character being loved on the big screen in a way that he never has been before. That sounded bad weird, but that's just how I feel about the movie. So I really love No Way Home, and me and Marcus are planning on talking about it here very soon. We're going to unpack a bunch of stuff because he asked me to do it, and when Marcus calls, you know I have to answer. So we will get to it. My other film I want to talk more about, just because I could easily get into No Way Home and take over this whole podcast right now. It's another film that came out pretty recently. It came out in 3 parts on Disney Plus too, and on Disney Plus, and I had no idea I would even like this film so much. It's so good that I haven't even finished it because it's 8 hours long, and I still know it's easily the best film I've watched all year, aside from No Way Home, and that is the Get Back movie from the
Beatles
Beatles.
thing. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Tell me about that.
yeah. I, as a musician, rapper, whatever you want to call me, songwriter be better.
Hmm.
Um, I have always found myself really digging documentary films about musicians, and especially when they get into depth and stuff. Like the Eagles documentary came out a few years ago, that HBO put out. I really loved that one, even though I had never really, I never thought about the Eagles like that until that movie, and I realized how much dope shit they actually made. As much as they get criticized throughout history as ruining rock and roll and all this stuff, that documentary was super dope. And I've always liked the Beatles. And I turned it on because it's like, all right, let me just see what this is about. Like I didn't think it would draw me in, but the fact that Peter Jackson took this footage that was shot in '69, of course it was digitally remastered to not only fit the format and times of today, but the picture is looks like it's literally being filmed right now.
Hmm.
And you're literally a fly on the wall in the studio session with four of the greatest band members of all time. And it's crazy. Crazy to see. You see them bickering. You see Yoko and John. You see Paul getting along with Yoko. You see the other ones getting along with Yoko, even though the big persistent rumor is Yoko broke up the Beatles. You see Paul McCartney walk in, and Ringo is there, and George is there. And he walks in and says, Lennon's late. This motherfucker picks up a guitar and then starts picking at it. And the next thing you know, he's got the dun, 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 and then within like maybe, I don't know, let's say half an hour, 45 minutes, let's say an hour, they have fleshed out the initial idea for their song Get Back, and it's rocking. The four of them in this, then they were on a sound stage, the four of them at this sound stage that they were using when they started the filming process. Then Lennon walks in, late as fuck, with Yoko, and Lennon's like, sits down. He's looking at them. They're still rocking. He picks up the guitar and he goes, dun, 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 and he just goes right into the song. And it's like one of the most amazing things I've ever seen musically in my life. I've seen people create beats within 10 minutes, like kind of like the Hustle and Flow thing where he made It's Hard Out Here for a Pimp, like literally out of nothing. I've seen that come out of thin air when it comes to producers making music either on equipment or on computers. I've seen rappers come up with dope verses off the top of their heads right in front of me and no writing. I've seen a local rapper I know, Jumbo Green 66240. He's Jumbo Green now. He was in a dead ass sleep on the floor. Dead ass sleep. It's like 3, 4 in the morning. Dead ass sleep. The guy he was recording with just finished his vocals. It took him a little while. He's in a dead ass sleep. I'm just sitting there drunk and whatever at the end of the night. I'm watching these two. He walks over to Six, taps him on the shoulder and says, yo, it's your verse. Six wakes up out of a dead ass sleep, walks over to the microphone, listens to the beat for like maybe 45 seconds or so because he had heard it while he's sleeping. But he walks on the microphone, lays down a one take 16, and then proceeds to go sit back down and kind of nod out again after he lays the verse. I've seen some things. So to see that, and then to see even the bickering, to see the songwriting process, to see Paul trying to keep them all organized, to see Ringo just happy to be there, to see George and Paul getting the fight about playing the wrong notes, to see Lennon sitting there bullshitting most of the time, and him and Paul just going back and forth and being silly ass motherfuckers at the same time while they're making this dope music. It's an incredible experience for me as a songwriter. And if you're a real Beatles fan, if you're really into music, then you might have had a similar experience, but nothing compares to what I'm currently watching. I was actually watching it before I got you guys on here, and I'm only on part 2, and I still got like half an hour left. And I am enthralled with this thing, and I know I'm going to repeat watch this thing many times for years to come. So, Give Back is definitely a film of the year for me.
I'm going to check it out.
All right.
I'll pivot to back to Marvel again, one we haven't mentioned. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I enjoyed the hell out of that, man.
I did too.
That was I saw it twice in theaters, which is
Oh,
not a
did you?
thing that I do. I was like, I'm gonna go back and see it again in the theater, you know.
I'm really glad I caught it in the theater. I almost didn't, but I did catch it, and it gave me a similar feeling to it wasn't as great as
Mhm,
Iron Man when it came out, but
mhm.
just the initial here's your character, here's his story, let's go, and you just go on his journey with him. I really enjoyed all the performances in that film.
And like the two things for me. My favorite, generally I didn't see Eternals, but my favorite type of Marvel movie is like you do the crazy otherworldly things, but you ground it in like Earth because like
Mhm.
I can relate to Earth, you know, like I didn't see the Guardians movies until like after the fact because then it was like, oh, I understand where these fit in the puzzle now. And then it was easier. But
Right.
like one off, like, oh, the space event, whatever they are, like, it doesn't really do it for me. But when you put it in the bigger puzzle, okay, it makes sense. But love when it's grounded in like places I can relate to. The second thing is like it sound like simple, basic white man answer. I like when I can through Marvel or movies or whatever, like you're exposing me to certain aspects of culture that I don't know or that I'm unfamiliar with.
Yeah.
And like just like and it's like simple things. Like I like how they do, the subtitles at the beginning kind of setting up the origin story. And then they're in the apartment before they go out and get on the bus and it's Shang-Chi talking to, the grandmother, the Asian grandmother about, oh, when you two are going to get married? No, we're just friends. We're just friends. Like, just like seeing like how loving and how that, a similar family unit would operate like our family units would operate, and
Yeah.
just seeing it in a different culture is like, it's interesting to me and it's eye opening to me to kind of, see those things because I wouldn't see it
They're
otherwise.
just like us.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like if I didn't seek it out, like in a documentary or other type of movie, um, so I thought they did a really good job with those type of aspects of it. And you've got plenty of, it was a lot of different layers to it, with his, finding his sister, and then back to
Mhm.
his father, and then everything with Shang-Chi's mother, and going back to her village and Tao Lao and everything. So I enjoyed the heck out of it. It was super super interesting to me.
And the dragon
Oh
was pretty
yeah.
awesome. The dragon was hella cool. Nice.
Of the movies of the 2021 movies I watched, I have Shang-Chi at basically like number 7 for the most part. So 7th best of 2021 movies I watched. So
Nice.
it was a pretty enjoyable ride. I think the first 2/3 are really strong as far as setting up the origin and kind of telling a story and that being like a pretty enjoyable experience. Aquafina didn't Aquafina. She was on a 8, so she wasn't on the Aquafina, so that was really good of her. So
Always appreciated.
uh yeah, so that was pretty good. It's pretty good.
Nice. All right. So let's go ahead and knock out one of these depressing answers. So yeah, well I mean, no, you know what?
Favorite song?
Yeah, definitely favorite song. Definitely favorite song. You nailed it. Um no, actually only one of these is truly depressing. So let's just go ahead and do this and then we can pivot back to the music and to the president questions. So
Okay, 2021.
oh god, COVID year 2. Um Marcus, how are you holding up?
Like shit. I mean, I mean,
All right.
there's literally
Nice.
no other
Not as
answer.
depressing
And
as I thought.
like, so even if you're, I don't, so I don't necessarily know how anyone could not feel anything above okay. Like, I think, let's say have a kid, you get engaged, you get married. That's one thing. But like, you know, uh, I, I, I think for me, one of the best things that actually happened that it's something I am kind of proud of, but I was kind of able to get out of a work situation that I would describe as being toxic. And that on top of the pandemic and, not being able to see my family or hang out or do anything, like that shit was just mentally draining on top of draining on top of draining. And so having that kind of victory to where I'm actually doing something that I enjoy, with people that I enjoy it with, like that to me is a victory. Like, so, I had that. I was able to see my family for Thanksgiving. I saw Kellen for Thanksgiving. Um, and on the funny thing is, the same day that I flew home, I flew I flew home early enough that as the plane was taking off in this fucking sky and we got above the clouds, I can actually watch the sunrise. And when I flew into Baltimore, I drove into Morgantown, and by the time I actually got into Morgantown, the sun was actually setting. So I was able to see the sunrise and the sunset in the same day. I never did that in my entire life.
Mm.
And I was able to, still do the podcast. I was able to make new friends. Um, you know, there's certain victories that you have that you really do have to kind of cherish and you really have to hold on to and be proud of. There were small victories throughout the year that I have that I'm super happy that I got to experience it. And it's one of those things to where you have those small victories and you're still trying to balance out everything else, and it's kind of one of those things that you just have to kind of not get down as best as possible. Like, I think we have to be very cognizant and very sensitive to even people who are, if they test positive for COVID, if they have a COVID scare, not being judgmental of it, being understanding of it, because I think that was a big hurdle for people last year and this year too, to where if they caught it, maybe they felt ashamed of it for whatever reason. And it's like, this one you don't have any control over. You can be as safe as possible, but then just one thing can slip up and then you catch it and you kind of have to deal with it. But if you are able to take the vaccine, if you're able to get boosted, if you have access to non-cloth mask, do that. And I'm super thankful that, um to the best of my knowledge, I've never caught it. So um
Same.
so yeah, man, it's and if I do catch it, and if that happens, like I've been vaccinated and I've gotten a booster and I have health insurance, and it's like one of those things to where there's so much negativity and it's so much craziness kind of in the world, and it's just one of those things that if you have things that are special in your life, whether you think it's small or someone else may think it's small or not, like it doesn't matter. Like special is special. And so if you have friends, if you have family, if you have a job, if you have a hobby, if you have a talent, really live in that and really try to accentuate that and really try to make something of that in 2022. And not that you have to monetize it, like you don't have to monetize everything you do, but if you have something that you love, study it, learn it, and engross yourself in it and just try to make it better for yourself. Because I think the lesson that we kind of learned from this year and last year is that all this shit is fleeting. Like this shit is so fucking fleeting, and you have to make the best. You have to make do with what you got, man, and make the best of
Yeah.
what you got. And if you want something, if you're thinking about wanting something, just go for it, man, and let the chips fall where they lie. And so yeah, that's how I'm doing, man. It's shitty out here, but we living.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, man.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said, Marcus. George, how are you, sir?
Yeah, and I'll piggyback off of Marcus. It's like for me, it's like find yourself in places that aren't, don't find yourself in the world, Like for me, that's, my faith, my family, friends, and it was like about prioritizing those things and, seeing the people, that I love and appreciate and, spending time with them and maybe going the extra mile or doing things that I otherwise, well, I don't want to do this now or blah, 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 or that's too much to do. And, I tried to, go and do those things and see people just because, sometimes, we think we always have these opportunities and, it's been evident that in the past 24 months that, we need to take advantage of, like Marcus said, take advantage of those things and do the things when they're presented to us, because it isn't this cyclical thing. It might not come back around again, whether we're seeing my friend Brett in South Carolina or
shout out to Brett.
Shout out to Brett. Shout out to Mike, being a part of Mike's wedding in Pittsburgh and seeing Kellen and John and everybody and, doing that. We had a fun bachelor weekend in Deep Creek and everything like that. It's those things and those moments of, focusing on that and less about the things that I can't control, around me, as much as I'm following and interested in news and politics and things like that. Like Marcus said, it just gets exhausting. And back and forth, and that, this changes and that change, things evolve and change, and then and it's just, you'll be spinning like a top if you try and keep track of it. So yeah, it's about, do what's best for your family, try and keep yourself safe. That we still, the funny thing is, like, still, people, like the basic rule of thumb, in a world sans vaccines and sans masks is just like, hey, limit your time indoors close to people and just like spread out, it's just, and when you're caught, like if we didn't have those things, and like, it's still like strange seeing, like, I'm in stores and I'm hearing people coughing. I was like, why the fuck you all coughing like that in the store? Like coughing your guy.
Somebody was coughing front row in No Way Home, and I was like,
see, exactly, like coughing your like arm or sneeze. Like I'm sneezing down into my shirt if I got to do it or something, if I don't have a mask on or whatever. It's like, again, the simple, those simple things about, like, get yourself clean air, spread out. People stand in line at Kroger, don't stand so close to me in the line at Kroger. So yeah, it's those type of things, take precautions for yourself because other people ain't going to take precautions for you sometimes. Try and find a way through it. It feels like we're, I've been wrong about predictions so many times. But it feels like we're coming through maybe closer to an end point than we were at this time last year. Who knows? But we'll see, Lord willing, how that goes. But it's fine, whether it's phone call or sending a note or a card or a little $5 gift card or something like that. Just to take care of the people you love and the people you care about, and those are the important things. Find yourself in that, and not in the news or the latest debate about masking and all these other things you see on television and all that. No, find yourself in the people that care about you and that you care about. So
yeah, another great answer. God, I'm holding up better now than I was, I don't know, even 2 or 3 months ago. Since this has really started, I keep finding these massive crises to have in my head that I'm constantly going through, and it's been challenging from a mental aspect because I'm trying to always be mindful of what's going on as far as who I'm near, who I've been around, making sure that at work, since I'm the supervisor, that everybody's following the guidelines there and not doing anything stupid there. And then making sure that I'm being safe for Aaliyah and Angel. And then also being mindful that they're going to public school 5 days a week, and then they could bring something home at any minute and there's just nothing you can do about it. Man, it's a constant roller coaster for me. I found myself thinking less about worrying about getting COVID and dying, at least. I kind of am slowly realizing, along with everybody else, that yes, we're vaccinated, and I'm thankful to be vaccinated. But just because we're vaccinated doesn't mean it's going to be eradicated. This is something that we're going to have to live with for a long time. We're only on like variant number 4 or 5, and there's going to be several more variants come down the line. Hopefully, nothing as deadly as the first ones that came out. I mean, obviously, people are still going to get COVID and get sick and unfortunately pass away. That's just a way of life, because if they're not doing everything they can to protect themselves, then I mean, it just is what it is. Unfortunately, I'm sorry for anyone who's lost anyone to COVID, or anyone who has COVID right now and didn't take the proper precautions. My heart goes out to you. I can't sit here and be angry at, as much as I want to sit here and be angry at the Republicans, or at anybody who's anti-mask, anti-vax, or even when I see people like Trevor Noah or LeBron James slipping their little anti-vax comments out there into the wild and stuff, and feeding into the frenzy and stuff, especially as people of color. I can't let myself get angry and caught up with that. I've already spent the last 4 years angry enough about what was going on in Washington and White House. It's just a new form of stress if I continue to let myself do that. So really, as far as how I'm doing now, like I said, I am doing much better. I've realized that I'm I have limited bandwidth for years and years. I've always tried to go, like George said, above and beyond for people. And it's one thing when you're going above and beyond to see a person. Like, there's no way Marcus was going to come into Morgantown and me not see Marcus. Like that was going to happen. But it's like there's sometimes just things are going on, and you just honestly got to be like, look, I can't do this. And whether that's for mental reasons, whether that's for safety reasons, whether that's just for like your health reasons, like personal, is like, you know what, I'm just too beat to do this, or I have to put off this thing I have to do, even at work, until tomorrow. And thankfully, work's been super understanding about that. And then there's stuff around the house that constantly needs to be done. And there's days where I'm just like, I can't get to this today. I have to put it off till tomorrow. And this year has, just like last year, been about continued growth and learning to live in a world with a dangerous, uncurable disease, which is something, again, that we're only in year 2 of doing. So it's a constant learning experience. It's a constant battle to just to stay upon the shore, as Garth Brooks once wrote. And and yeah, it's a thing that every day you wake up, and I'm not looking at the coronavirus section of Twitter, and making myself anxious every morning like I was doing even this time last year. I'd see a coronavirus thing come up, and I'd be like, what's it say? What's the bad news? Now it's kind of like you shrug it off. You know it's there. You know how to protect yourself. I've done everything I can to protect myself. All my immediate friends and family have. So, I mean, there really isn't much more I can ask for. Would I like to wake up tomorrow and magically be gone and everything kind of go back to normal? Absolutely. But we're not in the new normal anymore. This is normal now. And until it's not, I mean, we just got to try to be safe and be as good to each other as we can, even with our differing views on things, politics aside there. And we're just going to keep moving, and like the BG said, trying to stay alive. So,
all right.
It's a lot of words. So, coming off of the heavy topic, let's go ahead and move into our more fun heavy topic. And I want to just hand this right over to Marcus. So now that we are almost at 1 year without Donald being our president, Marcus, show him mad love, Robinson. Does anything really feel different now that he's been gone for almost a year?
I mean, we don't have a buffoon as our international symbol. I mean, I mean, that's
question answered.
I mean, but to be honest, I would say that is kind of, well, for the most part, I would say on a daily basis, when I see kind of Biden's name kind of pop up on news on the feed, it doesn't necessarily kind of hint at that buffoonery. But there's still things, kind of a lot of things about Biden that I'm not necessarily a fan of. And I think he's really in this kind of weird kind of intersection of, so yes, you won the election and you're at this crossroads of, you know, variants of coronavirus. You have this big push of getting student debt canceled. You're getting bitched by Joe Mancini. I'm not calling Joe Manchin, calling him Mancini. That's his real fucking name. So he's got this. Who would have thought that just Joe Mancini just flexing his muscles and saying, I'm going to hold all this shit up and what are you going to do about it? And Biden is like, uh, okay. It is, there's things for Biden that I'm, I'm just really kind of like, well, neutrality isn't helping shit. And there is positive that he's done, and like I said, even just the idea of I'm not ashamed of our president on an international scale of being like a xenophobic buffoon. But when you get beyond that, it's like, we got you elected, and it's been we just kind of need more shit done. Like we just need kind of more things done in a more quicker kind of way, and it just really feels like we're at this kind of stalemate of, you can't just have one man with a constituency that's small hold the country hostage. Like you just
Right.
like the government just can't just be that. Like it just can't work in that kind of way. And so um Biden, he's done well. Well, he's done okay, but there's just way more stuff that we need to have him do. I think we're going to get. If I had to predict, I think we are going to get Biden v. Trump part two. And to be honest, like who knows which ways that's actually going to swing. So so it's
Anybody's guess.
the funny thing is, I kind of tweeted this kind of tongue in cheek, but I think Manchin's probably going to use this as just some kind of effort to to leave the Democratic Party, be an independent, and then in the 2024 try to run under.
Oh my god.
This is strictly speculation,
Right.
but I think he's going to try to use it to run against him in 2024 and then lose against Donald Trump. But it's it we're in a weird kind of time for politics, man.
Yeah.
And especially if you live in a state like I do with our governor, who is super conservative. I mean, Abbott is just a fucking train wreck too, man. Like it's just a lot, man. It's a lot kind of going on in this country, and we kind of talked about the coronavirus, it's also the political environment as well, that is super important for this stuff, um and even with CDC stuff, as far as now they're kind of recommending that you don't have to quarantine as long if you're test positive and you're asymptomatic, and a lot of people have backlash against that. So we're really moving in a weird kind of time, man. Politically, there's not a lot of, it just feels like there's not a lot of allyship, um, even for liberals that voted for Biden to get elected. It just feels like a vast majority, well, maybe not a vast majority, but it feels like a sizable portion of that voting bloc is not satisfied with Biden. Um, so when the state elections, local elections come up, when the presidential election comes up, and it's shit 2 years. God damn. Well, that doesn't seem. It seems so close that we're really on. this kind of cusp of, are we really going to change who we are? Are we really going to be about the country as a whole, or are we just going to keep being divided until the end of time, basically?
Mhm.
And it's we talked about movies, and I just saw the Matrix Resurrections,
Mm.
and the biggest theme of the original trilogy is, especially the last movie, is that balance between, you have the good represented in Neo and the bad represented in Agent Smith, but the real kind of message of that is they're always going to be equal. Like, you're always going to have that push and pull, the yin and yang. And it just feels like if you're on one side, the other side just works harder to get their agenda achieved. And so if you're on the side of women's rights, if you're on the side of voting rights, it just feels like the other side of that is just going harder to quell those. And we're just in a really kind of volatile time in America here, in the world obviously, but in America specifically.
Great answer. George, would you like to follow that up, please?
Man, Marcus did a good job.
Thought father working.
The nice part is you don't wake up, whatever time you woke up during, given day in the Trump administration, and there was already some fucking shitstorm going by like 8 a.m., which is usually the time I wake up, because that clown was up at like 4 tweeting shit at 4
Tweeting from the
a.m.
shitter.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, we're gonna buy Greenland today. Oh, we're gonna, this is like the dumb shit about like just how a week felt like a year and a month felt like a lifetime in that administration. Is like, I'm seeing like, I just this week, the Greenland thing, I was like, that's fucking right. He wanted to buy Greenland. Like, just like things that you think,
That's like
aside from like,
50
insurrection and
minutes.
racism and all the
Yeah.
other shit, like down here was like random ass shit, like the Zelensky fake. Tell Zelensky, President Zelensky, no quid pro quo. That dumb thing that if you look up the memes, people made it into a song. I think it's hilarious. But all that shit impeached twice. But then down here, like, wanted to buy Greenland at one point from Denmark, which owns it. Sorry, Greenland's not for sale.
The fucking insurrection.
I
Oh
get
my God.
so I got some angry
And that
opinions
led the year.
for public consumption.
That was at the start of the fucking year, man. Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Year, January 6th.
Yeah. Yeah.
we're in a weird ass time, man.
Yeah.
Watching everything on my phone, watching people literally break into the Capitol and cops just standing there watching people come in.
Yeah.
Man.
No, it just I can't even.
And Elon Musk is man of the year, so, or
Elon Musk is
person
man
of
of
the
the
year.
This,
So
I think
great.
I'll give Manchin one credit, Mancini, as you call him. There is something to be said that it does feel like the staff of the White House is controlling the direction of the country more than the president, and it's interesting because, like, when you look at these administrations, like, it's usually a small group of advisors. So I'll give you like a small political like crash course, like, George W. Bush administration. It's him, the president. Karl Rove is his advisor. Andy Card is the chief of staff, and that's kind of like the group. Dick Cheney's involved in some things, but that's kind of like the group. The Obama administration, it's Obama, Valerie Jarrett, super involved, White House chief of staff. Rahm Emanuel, who was his Valerie Jarrett was the advisor, and Rahm Emanuel was his chief of staff. Like, that's kind of the core group there. The Biden group seems like more far flung than that. So like when Obama said something, or he would go out and do a speech, whether it was Affordable Care Act or whatever, like, you kind of got the gist that, and like, Michelle's like healthy eating and those type of things, like the initiatives that came from the White House, I felt, and I think people felt like came from the commander in chief, came from the president, and came from leadership. And like some of the stuff from the Biden White House, it doesn't feel like it's genuinely from the president, in my opinion. And I think that's kind of where you start, both with progressive people that think he hasn't done enough, and more moderate people like myself that are just like, well, can't you just get some of this stuff across the line?
Right.
I think that I think that like it doesn't feel like that some of this stuff genuinely comes from the White House. This probably sound like trying to find a needle in a haystack. I think if you take some of these provisions out of why we always got to have big bills on stuff. If you took some of these provisions out and put them to a standalone vote, it might take a long time, but I think some of them could pass, whether it was extended extended leave for families when you have kids, or whether it was a student loan thing, whether it was completely canceling, or I would support a plan that like cancels to a number, like, hey, everybody gets 50,000. Maybe it's not all of it, but we'll give you, a one-time push and a one-time cancellation of this number. I think some of those things would probably have some popularity among both parties, but then we try and roll it into this ball of we need to shove everything through. And the way legislation gets made, like you said, Marcus, like you've got this window here and it's the end of the year. And then by the time 3 weeks from now, they'll be focused on reelection, and like nothing gets, because it's the midterm, and then nothing gets done in a midterm year. And then if Republicans win the House, you're back to square zero, and it's just the same fighting, bickering bullshit. Like it hasn't, halcyon days of, even though different parties control different branches of government, there was still like things you could pass and get done, and it wasn't this fucking political suicide thing where, oh, God forbid, our Kellen and I's representative is David McKinley. He's a Republican, first district of West Virginia, and voted for a bipartisan infrastructure bill, $1.7 trillion, whatever, $1.2 trillion. It was negotiated among the Senate and the House, and he was one of like 12 or so Republicans in the House to support it. And you want to rail on him like, oh, it's supporting Nancy Pelosi and her socialist agenda, and it's like, I love public works spending. I like, go back to FDR. Like it's one of my favorite presidents and favorite times in history, just because it was like, Tennessee Valley Authority and Civilian Conservation Corps, and they built shit that people still use. If you go to a national park, if you go to Shenandoah National Park, you're still going through roads and things that was built in the 30s by the by your fellow Americans in the Civilian Conservation Corps, and it put Americans to work, and it used the resources of government to try and better the country in the middle of an economic crisis. And infrastructure spending on roads, which if you're driven, Robert C. Byrd's dead and we ain't getting as much money for roads anymore. If you drive around on some of these pothole ass roads in West Virginia, they need fixed, and that's any road in the country. Like, who is against bad infrastructure? And we love in West Virginia, we love talking about, broadband. I've been hearing about broadband for 20 years. I don't know what the hell's been done about it. I know they continue to allocate money to it, but if you go into, Kellen and I are fortunate to live in, for West Virginia, relatively urban areas. But if you drove out like anywhere past Grafton, it's going to start getting spawny or down, in most of the vast part of our state. And those people deserve to have
the haulers.
Yeah.
The haulers.
Like, I'm not asking for them to have like, a big ass tower and 5G, but like, some of those areas getting the same internet that we're using to have this conversation right now, which they don't have. Simple things, basic things, and that transcends party lines. It transcends economic lines, racial lines, and gender lines. The same things happen in I've seen from my time being at Maryland and going through classes there. A lot of the same issues that plague Baltimore are some of the same issues that plague Appalachia. Whether it's drug abuse and addiction, whether it's lack of access to food, lack of access to internet, lack of access to good water. in the city, it's caused by one thing. In the mountains, it's caused by pollution and them dumping shit into creeks and rivers. So the problems are not that different regardless of where you come from and where your standing is in this country. And I think those are the things that people could get together and find a common ground to pass things on. But it's easier and it's lazier to go out there and just throw fucking bombs at people like this. You don't want to mention Manchin. I don't want to mention this mush face CrossFit woman from Georgia that's a nut. Where like people in her own party who are trying to be like, oh, okay, let's do this, and then they're attacking each other, and like that's what they want to be. That's what, in the interest of full disclosure, when I came out of high school, I was registered as a Republican, and in about 2012, I changed my registration to no party affiliation, which you can do in West Virginia. And I wrote in a vote, did not vote for Trump the first time, and I voted for Joe Biden in the last election because there was no way I was going to let that shit continue. I couldn't, with the conscience, couldn't vote for that shit to continue. And there are the party is it's going to cannibalize and eat itself, the Republican Party, into this just this cultish faction type of thing. Part of me, part of me feels like both parties are kind of going in that direction where we've just gone polar. I think the Republicans more so than the Democrats. There are still, because Democrats represent a large, vast constituencies. You can be, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from Queens, but you can also be Dean Phillips, who's from Minneapolis. There's still Democrats, and the needs of the Democratic Party vary in different areas of the country, even though they've lost a lot of rural voters in the last, 4, 5, 8 years. But the Republicans are going down a path that's, not even, you don't even want to be associated with that with a 10-foot pole.
It's that,
yeah.
It's that balance, man. It's like I've definitely seen, even during the second election of the re-election of Obama, to where, progressives are really putting that to the word. They're really trying to progress the Democratic Party to where, like, cancel that fucking student debt, like make sure women have voting rights, like paternal leave, like PTO for that shit. Like, they're really trying to get the Democrats across the finish line for that shit. But on the other side of that, you do have kind of conservatives, that are getting like ultra right, getting into kind of Trumpism, and that's like a whole fucking another dangerous thing. And it's like, you have that push and that pull that's really going on. That, if the extremes, I mean, they're called extremes for a word because it feels like, even if you look at kind of like what we were kind of political parties and like the Bush era, Obama's election, and then if from 2008 to now, like in the history of the world, that's not a long period of time, but for this country, like it's like night and day. Like it feels like it, and it's a really kind of crazy ass time. We're living in the fucking textbooks, guys. Like they like we're gonna be part of fucking textbooks.
It's the 1860s and the 1960s all like at the same time. It's like we're fighting racist ass Civil War stuff, and also like 1960s oppression of black people stuff all at the same time in 2021. And I'm like, this is and like and inflation from like the 70s and the 80s, like all of that is rolled into
the more things change.
Crazy ass ball. Yeah
man.
Damn. So the correct answer is no. And to sum up both of your arguments, it feels like the tug of war game from Squid Games is how it feels. So whoever falls off the edge first is just going to end up losing, obviously. But no, nothing feels different. I mean, you don't have the political swell that we had over the summer last year when George Floyd and Breonna was murdered and everything like that. You don't have the activism or the wokeness of that anymore. You have people who are so glad that Trump's not in office every day that they're immediately went back to being apathetic about the whole process again.
There it is.
So they no longer care. At least Trump's not in there. I'm gonna go about my business because this has nothing to do with me again. Yeah. You have the overcorrection from the far right of, you took away Trump, so we're going to double down on how we were acting before and be just as bad as before, but then even add in some more terrible rhetoric on top of all that. And then you have, again, all these promises that Joe made, that Kamala made, that got them into office, and then they're stuck in filibusters and everything because, like you said, there's just too many provisions and bills, and they're not being straightforward. I mean, they can't really do that to try and get things passed, and they're trying to get things done quickly. But I mean, we kind of all knew things were going in a certain direction. In Texas, women lost their ability to have abortions. Roe v. Wade is closer and closer to being overturned as an overcorrection from Trump losing the election, even though technically everybody's like, oh, it would have happened under Trump. Yeah, maybe, but I mean, they have even more incentive to take that away because we lost the White House. So why don't we take this away from something that's been in place for years and years because we didn't get our way? The two-party system is a farce. I'm
Here.
we're not a democracy. All we do is bicker and fight all the time. Our country is getting worse by the day, and there's no true leader. While there is a figurehead who is saying things are trying to be done and is doing what he can at his ripe old age, um, things are getting worse. Ironically enough, and it's no one's fault because these are things that have been put into place and have been building for years and years under the surface. It's just finally the plates are shifting, and everything is falling down around our ears every day when it comes to political scene. That's my opinion.
I mean, the price for living is going up and wages aren't. So
Right.
so so.
But nobody wants to work because they're lazy. Lazy MFers don't want to go to Burger King and flip my burger. I gotta wait an extra 10 minutes. This is bullshit.
That's like that's what Marcus is saying.
Let's
Yeah,
go, Brandon.
That's the lazy answer, and like the real answer is like, yeah, if you didn't like your job, like fucking quit. Like, you know, we're in the I love reading these, you know, great resignation stuff. Like we're in the midst of movement in employment that people are just like, well, I got to work because like I got to work. Well, maybe you don't need to work. Maybe there's like we talked, you said cash flows earlier. Like maybe you start selling things. Maybe you make paintings or crafts out of wood and you sell. Like there's, you know, we're in
Get
an
that
age where
OnlyFans popping.
Yeah, exactly. You
Get that OF money, son.
Seriously.
Absolutely.
Like you can I mean if there is ways for you to make it, you know, that doesn't have to be the base, you know, 9.75 or whatever the hell it is an hour, like that's, you know, go ahead and free yourself from that. Like it's it's not laziness.
Glad I make
It's like
$11 an hour.
see, yeah, it's like I chose freedom for myself. Like that's it's liberating, it's emancipating. Like we should support that, you know, for the right if people doing it for the right reasons. Like I don't need to subject myself. I value myself better than this. Like, and when you put a value on that, then you start seeing these places like, all right, well, you know, I forget who, a couple of different, you know, major retailers, you know, all right, we'll offer you $16 an hour now because like we need people, and when you need people, you'll start changing the ways you view the people that you have, and how to recruit them and how to retain them. So, yeah.
All right. That brings us to our last topic of the episode. This is a lighter one after those two heavy ones. We're going to go to George to lead things off here. So, because numbers on the board is also supposed to be our best of year wrap up kind of idea, George, this can be it can be from any time period. Don't feel obligated to make it 2021 necessarily. Okay. So, what was your favorite song, album, or EP that you heard this year?
Well, give an honorable mention, as I like to do sometimes, to Adele's 30. I got, it's funny what TV will do. I'm good. People laugh at me. Like you get me with like a good advertising. Like I'll kind of like tune in for something, that I'm mildly interested in. And CBS just, while I'm watching football on Sundays, just kept saying Adele one night only. And I'm like, okay. And I was like kind of into it because she, you know, was curious about, she hadn't really done like a big, at least American interview about, you know, since she had lost, you know, her weight, and which it has been a couple year process, but like, you know, pandemic and everything like that, and about, you know, her divorce and, you know, dating Rich Paul now and all that type of stuff. And then on top of that, you know, show me these nice ass drone shots of the fucking Griffith Observatory in LA, and it's clear, beautiful night, and she's singing. I'm like, okay, I'm in.
Absolutely.
And like, I always liked, you know, her, you know, I wouldn't call myself an Adele fan, but like just somebody like, okay, like if, you know, listening to her music, like hearing it on XM or the radio and everything, and just did a real good, open, honest interview with Oprah, and was just like, hey, you know, I started, you know, just it started with me. It wasn't like, hey, I'm, like this classic Hollywood thing, like, oh, I am quote unquote fat and I need to lose weight. It was just, she started walking one day, and then she said walking turned into some weights, and it turned in, and just like naturally found a journey. And like, I was like, okay, props for that. It wasn't this like superficial Hollywood based thing like it usually is with people that are celebrities. And just the music was good. And so honorable mention to her also, because there's a tie-in to my favorite album of the year, which was delayed a year from last year. And of course, it is the Foo Fighters. Medicine at Midnight was their new album. Their 10th album came out. And so they went, they went a little, I don't want to say jam bandy, but, kind of some bops, kind of like dance hall type of stuff. The lead title track, Medicine at Midnight's like kind of this, groovy type of 70s stuff. And they found, I love the guys because they find their influences like all over the place. And they can be the traditional rock, but then they can go, a little more soulful and a little more peaceful here. The common thread there, both of those albums, Greg Kurstin again, who's, uber mega producer who, worked with Sia, has worked with Katy Perry, he's worked with, pretty much everybody under the sun in LA. He did the Foo's Concrete and Gold album, and which was the last tour, and then so also did Adele's and did Medicine at Midnight. But just like so many, only 9 songs on it, but so many different. I just listen to it, and I usually don't like I'm not one of these people that like I'll click listen, kind of get a snippet of the songs, and I'll like download like the 3 or 4 songs that I like. But like I just like listen to the album kind of end over end when it came out, which was really on streaming, which was really cool. And like just the backstory of some of like Dave Waiting on a War was like Dave Grohl in a car with his daughter, and his daughter was concerned about a war, and he just kind of wrote a song, about it. I've been waiting on a war since I was young, and it's just kind of like how we're always in this position of like aggression and global threat, like
right.
really goes away. And then, making a fire, which some of you may have heard in the, Dodge Ram commercials, they get the Dodge to do that. That's my favorite one. Like I'm banging out to that when I'm like on the bike or running or something like that. So there's, some of the, classic Foo influences in there, but then they get into some more like riffy type of stuff with a little more of a jam feeling or a little more dance feeling. And Dave even said that this was kind of like, hey, we want it to be a rock album, but also something you can dance to. And so I like it. I encourage people to listen to it because it might be a better intro point for if you consider the Foos, traditional rock and roll. I consider them the last great American rock band. You thought the Eagles ruined rock and roll. I contend the Coldplay ruined rock and roll. But
I probably would agree with you there.
And now like what do we got is rock and roll. Like the genre's like nearly dead except for the same bands that have been around for 20 years. They're in the Hall of Fame. They went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year.
Right.
Foo Fighters. So but
so I don't even know what I think you have to I would say you have to probably have to go like indie like rock, but then where is indie rock at? Like I think one of the last bands that I got into, I think it's Haim, Haim, Haim. Like I love their shit. Like they came out last year with an album that was fucking dope, but then it's like, who else kind of newer is kind of dropping like good shit. So I don't even know where to begin for like the funny thing is, so one of the bougie grocery stores I go to, they'll play like
Whole Foods.
Well actually no, it's like HEB has this like this chain called Central Market, but that actually has like the good vegetables and the good fruits, like so in the overpriced meats, which is actually really good, but they play like alternative rock, like not soft rock, but it's like alternative, like newer rock. And I'll throw on the Shazam to get like a random group from there every now and then.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think rock music is weird kind of state to where, who's the predominant rock group to come out, since Obama got elected, like since he got reelected, like so it's it's like the last decade of rock music is super kind of weird. Like I mean, rap has kind of turned into pop music, and it's like, and then like the kind of the vibe rap is really trash, and it's like music before the pandemic was kind of in a weird kind of state, but
Mhm.
it still felt kind of functional because you can still go to shows. Like you could have like maybe like a local artist that you kind of discovered or whatever. But now it's like even for rap music, like even if you look at kind of like the most popular rappers, like you have Drake and Kanye who dropped this year, but I would say those albums. I think you really were high on Donda. I think, but for me, like I don't I don't listen to Kanye anymore, so I haven't listened to Donda. Drake's album, Certified Lover Boy, like that album was like the first six songs you could leave off that album and you wouldn't even think about them anymore. So that's like a fourth. That's like a large portion of the album that you don't even need. So, his album it wasn't underwhelming, but it was kind of boring to be very honest.
Mhm.
Did you watch the concert in L.A., Marcus?
Um, that was a FOMO situation to where everyone was tweeting about it. I wasn't gonna watch it. Everyone was tweeting about it. I watched it, it and so I missed the best part of it. The best part of it was Kanye playing this old shit. When I got on, it was Drake playing all his new shit, and it's like it's not good. So, so it's like I got FOMO. I caved into the FOMO,
Yeah.
and then I did not get rewarded when I caved in.
I did not cave.
So
No.
well, because people love so Kanye was doing like stuff from Graduation and
Yes.
Dropout and
Yes.
Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. So even in me not listening to Kanye anymore, I still would have found maybe I would have found some pleasure in that. But
Mhm.
Drake was doing his new shit, and it was like even the idea of Kanye playing the classics and Drake playing the new. Why aren't you two on the same page to play the classics? Like that would have been a way better experience. But Drake was doing Certified Lover Boy songs, and it's like this shit is mid. So I really, if I had not given to the FOMO, I would have felt much better about myself. So
That's because people.
yeah,
That's because
man.
people think Kanye pulled one over on Drake and said, "Okay, we're gonna do the new shit," and then it was like, "Nah, I'm going out here and throwing the bangers down," and then everybody lost
Basically,
their mind.
like for real. So
Wow.
like that whole thing was kind of a pump fake. So
Jay
um,
Prince is a bully. They don't care about Larry Hoover.
I mean, that's a whole nother. That's a
I don't care about.
let's
He
not
didn't say
get into
nothing
that
about Larry.
part
He was
of
wearing
it.
the
Like,
clothes, but like I had to go to Google, like again, ignorant white person, like, oh, tell me about Larry Hoover. I had to look it up because I thought they were going to tell me during the concert.
No, absolutely
Like,
not.
aside from the
I mean,
hashtag, like, I didn't learn nothing. I had to go learn it myself.
of all the people to be freed of political prisoners who have gotten exiled from America, um, Larry Hoover, he's on the very bottom power rankings of people that need to be freed from jail.
Yep, that's how I
like,
feel
Yeah,
too.
that's
like I mean,
after I looked him up. That's kind of the vibe I got. Yeah.
yeah, and the
Free
funny
to ban them.
because the funny thing is, and that was one of the funniest parts of it. So everyone's wearing free Larry Hoover shirts or whatever, $400 free Larry Hoover shirts. Drake comes on with a free Man and Them shirt, and it's like well, one, I am happy that Drake did not say free Larry Hoover, but then it's like you're really not on the program, are you? And then Drake actually performed his and I think he did this on purpose. He didn't wear the free Larry Hoover shit, and he actually performed one of his sneak disses on Kanye. He performed one of the songs at the show, and so it's like, do you really fuck with this guy now or not? The answer is no. There's no way they actually really fuck with each other. But
No,
it's
absolutely not.
that was just a
Must
fuck.
be the money.
I don't think Drake even got paid for it. Well, they sold the merch. I don't
Amazon
know
has
they
to have
actually
something.
sold tickets for it. Maybe they did sell tickets for it, maybe
There's
not.
money in there somewhere.
Um,
Amazon better
but
something.
oh yeah, it's streamed free on Amazon and Twitch. So
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean Drake probably got like 2 mil for it probably, which I
No
mean
big deal.
2 mil, 2 mil. I mean that's I mean I wish I got to a point where 2 million was not a big deal to me, but I'll speaking from
Right.
speaking from two kind of rappers who need to kind of shut the fuck up for a couple of years, to my list of rappers who should not shut the fuck up for any number of years. Um,
What a pivot.
so, so for me, I think, like I said, this year music was kind of weird. I didn't really, even the idea of experiencing music with other folks, like in concerts or car rides or just clubs or bars, whatever. I didn't have that very often this year. But for me, a couple of projects I want to shout out. I think the best rap album, well, one of the best rap albums this year, Tyler Creator's "Call Me If You Get Lost." Um, he did that. He collabed with DJ Drama. Well, he made the album and he gave it to DJ Drama to do like the mixtape ad libs on.
Hmm.
That was a what do we call LL Cool J? It was a sneak. Um, when you try to steal someone's girl. It's basically
Oh,
like that mixtape. I forget what we call it, but basically the whole mixtape is about him being in love with this other person, but that person is with another guy, and so he's basically spending the whole album trying to get that person to come get with him. So so yeah, so he was definitely trying to pull a robbery on that. So I fuck with that heavy. Um, so some other rappers I kind of want to shout out. Shout out West Side Gun. His
Hey, yo.
his album names are too fucking crazy for me to even say out loud on airways. But uh, uh, he dropped some good projects this year with questionable names of them. His other rapper, this Haitian kid from New York, Makami, he dropped this album called Pray for Haiti, which is an underground album, but it was really, really dope, really lyrical, really good. Bodie James, he dropped an album with Alchemist called Bo Jackson. That
That
album was
just
fucking
dropped, didn't it?
fire. Well, no, he actually had two albums with Alchemist in 1 year. So his first album with Alchemist was called Bo Jackson, and that came out about 3 months ago.
Mhm.
And his new album with Alchemist that dropped last week called Tecmo Bowl. Um, so that
Okay. Yeah,
dropped.
that's when I
Uh,
saw.
so yeah, so Bodie James. The funny thing is, Bodie James has actually been around since like the Asher Roth days, of like the Chip the Ripper days,
You right.
but
You
but
right.
he's really kind of getting his shit now to where he's like getting like the recognition. So I mean, like the grind is long, but fuck it, you getting the recognition now. And the last rapper I want to shout out, this rapper from Louisville, ESTG. He's dropped like underground kind of shit, but it's more along the lines of the flashy kind of dope dealer rap, super ratchet. But I'm here for it still. So his album this year it's called Bigger Than Life or Death, and I really listen to the album too much. That's like a car album. Like you put it on a car, you let the bass go, and that's basically it. So it's kind of cotton candy. It's fun. So you don't feel like real fulfillment. It's just a fun ass ride, and so those are the shits that I really fuck with this year.
What was the name of that last artist again?
ESTG.
G. Okay, I got it. Bigger than life. Bigger than life or death deluxe. Is that what I want,
So he
or
did
just the
Bigger Than
regular
Life or
joint?
Death. Well, so he did Big on Life or Death
Hmm.
this summer, and then about 3 weeks ago, he or maybe 2 weeks ago, he did Big on Life or Death 2, but then he combined it in a deluxe version. So
All right, I'm gonna do
if you listen,
deluxe.
if you Well, it's like if you do deluxe, it's like 18 songs. So
That's
I don't
cool.
know I don't know if anyone listened to 18 song projects in
I
2021.
listen to Donda and CLB. Yes, I can handle it.
Well, there you go. All right. Um, I would say for you, Kellen,
Yeah,
I would actually say you should probably listen to Pray for Haiti before you listen to that.
I do have Pray for Haiti in my playlist because I just checked that's in there. So I do have that. I haven't gotten to it yet, but I do have it in here.
All right. So there you go.
Awesome. All right. So my album of the year is Donda. Psych.
Hilarious.
I in the moment of listening to Donda, I will say, most coherent Kanye album since um Pablo.
Yes.
But was it memorable for me? No. I listened to it once, and I've listened to the Andre 3000 from um the deluxe more than any song that's on Donda. Um,
Because it's more like a Kanye like to that point, like the song with the weekend.
yeah,
That's the one I'm like, okay, don't I forget the name of Don't Beg Me Down. Like I'm like, okay, I like this, but it ain't a Kanye song, you
yeah.
know. It's just what it is.
It's very compilation like the whole Donda thing. The whole original Donda album. Um, it was cool. But it didn't move me to be my album of the year. CLB, I enjoyed it more than I did Scorpion when I first listened to Scorpion. Um,
Yeah, it's
but
better than Scorpion, I would say.
again, it it didn't move the needle too much for me. I've only listened to it once. I really enjoyed the final track on there only because it gave me vibes of Drake's previous songs with just like 40, um like The Calm, or the one he dropped right before he came out with his first album. Damn, I can see the album cover, but it's not coming to me. I can hear the beat, but it's not. But yeah,
Mm,
it's those real
So far
introspective
gone.
Drake. No, well, no, the one that came out after So Far Gone. All right, I'm just going to find it now. We're going to do podcast 101.
Nah, no,
Damn
no,
it.
let's keep going. Let's
No,
keep
I
going.
got to know. No.
So while Kellen's looking that up, the song he's talking about is called "The Remorse." Of all
Yes.
the songs on Certified Lover Boy, there's legit only like 5 good songs on here. "The Remorse," "70" and "The Bridal Path," Yeba's "Heartbreak," which is just a Yeba song, which is
It's
actually
called
the best
Fear.
song on there.
Fear was
And
the
yeah, I
song.
knew you were talking about Fear. I knew you were talking about Fear.
Yeah.
And like maybe 2 more songs on Certified Lover Boy were the damn. So yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, glad they made albums, I guess. Jay Prince is a bully. So I got two honorable mentions, and then I'll got my main event album of the year. So I discovered D Smoke this year, and his album from last year, 2020, Black Habits, was very good. Did not expect that amount of lyricism and that amount of type of beats on that entire project. I love that album start to finish. Uh, Ran it right back after listening to it, and have visited different tracks from it on different occasions. So I really like Black Habits. I know he just put out a new project, but I've not listened to it yet. An Evening with Silk Sonic, very
mm,
short, very fulfilling for me. Smoking Out the Window is a jam for me. Um, the original song they came out with was also a really big hit for me, and obviously it did well on radio. Their chemistry and the time that they took from announcing this album at the beginning of this year, I believe, and then making everybody really wait it out all year
yeah.
for the album, and then for it to be such a concise, tight project, I was really happy with that as a Bruno fan and as an Anderson Paak fan. So kudos to them. My album of the year, though,
Oh,
goes to the rapper who I can't stop talking about on this very podcast because I think I've talked about him 2 or 3 times in the last few episodes. It would be Nas with King's
mm,
Disease too, man. I like King Disease 1 a lot. I was really impressed with the chemistry he had with Hit Boy. King's Disease 2 floored me, and the album is flawless. He got Lauryn Hill to rap again for the first time in years. Death Row East is a highlight, talking about how he met with Pac and all of them in New York, and Pac thought he had the upper hand, but apparently he had Jungle and his whole crew from Queensbridge, ready to get Pac and Snoop and Death Row and all of them, which was just crazy. The Pressure is a great song. Rare. The I just said this on Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday, Friday. It was on Christmas Eve when I recorded last episode, that the growth that Nas has shown over the past few years, especially since getting with Hit Boy and building their chemistry, and showing that even at his age, after years and years of being dogged for not having good beats and not being able to make relevant music anymore, that he's able to still put out his type of music in this environment and it be as good, if not better, than some of the music that's being dropped on a mainstream level that's moving all the units and the kids love and everything like that, and showing that even at this advanced age and almost being in the game 30 years, he's still one of the best lyricists of all time. It's amazing. And my man just dropped another album on Friday called Magic, which is not as good as King's Disease 2 for me. It's as good as King's Disease 1, though. So definitely check that out. And that's my album of the year, King's Disease 2. I can't get enough of it. I'm just so happy to see Nas shine in 2021. That is not something that was marked on my bingo card at all.
Shout out Silk Sonic. I like Skate, Leave the Door Open. Both those. Yeah, I was a big fan of. He did I'm a big Lacoste guy. I follow their stuff on socials and all that. And so they were doing like the Ricky Royal and the Ricky Regal and the lead up to that type of stuff. They did a nice job with the slow roll. I was like, okay. And then the music was like, okay, like just got this super 70s vibe to it. Like, and you're I'm kind of craving retro stuff, is based on our aforementioned conversation about how bad shit is. So it kind of gives you that those kind of vibes in a modern way. So I like that album too.
Yeah, very good stuff. So I believe I don't have anything else for this episode. So George or Marcus, do you have any final thoughts you would want to leave the people with before we cap off this year?
Listen to the next episode.
Always be listening. Find happiness.
Yes. Like literally just listen to the next episode. Keep listening.
Keep listening to the sports episode.